Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're reviewing Money in the Bank 2023. With that being said, if you haven't seen any of my videos before, I grade everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's jump right into it. We start off hot with the men's Money in the Bank match. We have Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus LA Knight versus Santos Escobar versus Butch versus Damian Priest versus Logan Paul. I thought this was a really fun match. I mean, if you're into crazy spot fest car crash matches, you'll like this. If you're more for a mat-based thing, it's probably not going to be for you. This was fun. It was a good way to start the show. High energy, high excitement. A couple things that stood out as I was watching it. First off, how are guys like Santos Escobar and Butch not more prominently featured? These guys are great. LA Knight is probably one of the most over, if not the most over wrestler in all of the business right now. Ricochet and Logan Paul have a dangerous spot where it looks like they're going to bounce off the ropes from coming off the ladder and do a Spanish fly that was pretty poorly executed, and it looked like Logan Paul had a pretty bad cut on his back. They didn't really show it much, but from what I could see, it looked like he was cut somewhere. He was definitely bleeding. Hopefully he's okay. I know there's some questionable activities about him, which I won't get into that because I honestly haven't followed up much. I just know there's some questionable stuff with NFTs and whatever. But as a performer, he's a fantastic wrestler, a great heel. I have enjoyed some of the Logan Paul Impulsive podcasts that I've heard. It's not one that I regularly look for, but if there's someone on there that I like, I'll check it out because I think he does a good job there. All in all, this was a fantastic match. It came down to, in my opinion, two people that should have won, and they went with one of the two that I thought going into it. I may have called an audible during the match, hearing how into LA Knight the crowd was, but overall they give the win to Damian Priest, which plays in a little bit later as well, which was another one that I thought going into this is going to be a great way to elevate Damian Priest if they choose to go that route. I thought this was a fun opener. I rather enjoyed the match. I'm giving it a 5. That's followed up with our Women's Tag Team Championship match. We get Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler defending against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. First, for anyone that watched, Liv's gear was amazing. She looked like the 6th Spice Girl, and if you're too young to get that reference, look them up, you'll understand. I thought this was a good match. I think these two teams work well with each other. The ending kind of worked against the match in my opinion, with Shayna turning on Ronda Rousey. It wasn't really explained, and it didn't really get a reaction. People were more confused as to what was happening than excited. It's not something where there was a simmering burn, a simmering turn going on here, and sometimes these surprise turns are good too. It just left a lot of people, including myself, confused because why? Overall, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez pick up the win here. I do think they're a good team. I thought this was a good match. Can't give it much more than that. I'm giving this a 3. That's followed up with a quick backstage segment with Damian Priest talking about the different championships he can cash in on, which was pretty cool. Then we go into a match with Matt Riddle versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. I fully believe that Gunther, however you want to pronounce it, is going to break the Honky Tonk Man's record at this point. I mean, there's no reason not to let him. He is so close to it. I think he has like less than 2 months. This wasn't a squash match, but the outcome was never in doubt. Gunther basically runs through Riddle pretty easily. He picks up the win here. Afterwards, we hear familiar music and Drew McIntyre comes out. Michael Cole on commentary says maybe this will squash the rumors that he's leaving WWE, which tends to make me think maybe he signed an extension. I do know there's quite a bit left on his contract. I think he's signed through the end of the year even, so maybe they're playing with that and they're gonna have him lose on the way out. I think this is gonna set up an awesome match at SummerSlam. I'm torn because I feel like McIntyre should win, but I want Gunther to beat the Honky Tonk Man's record. Not that I dislike the Honky Tonk Man or don't think that he deserves a record. I just like to see one of these major records fall. We know Bruno's record ain't being touched. However, the Honky Tonk Man's record that can go down. I'm giving this all a 4. I thought it was really good. That's followed up with probably the biggest babyface in WWE versus the biggest heel in WWE, the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, going up against Dominic Mysterio. This is just another really fun match. These two work well with each other. I kind of feel like Cody's been where Dominic was, where he was a little bit uncared for when he first started, and then when he really turned on his heel mannerisms joining Legacy, it really boosted his career, and I think he's helping Dominic along in that route as well. Thought this was a really fun match. One of the key points, Cody breaks off his cast, which was supposed to be titanium, so I guess in kayfabe, Cody could break titanium, which, if that's fact, then who stands to stop him? The only one in kayfabe would be Brian Cage, because he's a cyborg, but he works at a different company, so I thought this was really fun. Cody picks up the win here. I'm giving this one a 4. That's followed up with easily the biggest surprise of the night. John Cena comes out to the ring. He's hyping up the London crowd pretty heavily, and it got to a point where it felt a little bit long. I don't know if maybe we needed to fill some time here, but the crux of it was he built up the crowd to come just this short of saying there is going to be a WrestleMania in London, which I gotta believe if they're willing to go that far, they already have something in the plans. I know 40 is set up for Philadelphia next year. Maybe 41 or 42 comes to London. Obviously, if they're going to do it, they're going to want to go to Wembley to outdo AEW, and I know it's not an arms race necessarily, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of what they're thinking, which, no doubt, if there is a WrestleMania in London, it will sell out Wembley Stadium, and I guarantee that the tickets will be more expensive, which means that they will make more money, which they can always tout. They'll find a way to open more seats just so they could say they have the biggest event in the United Kingdom history, and I really hope it happens. If not for anything else, I like these middle of the day pay-per-views, these ones that come on at 2, 3 in the afternoon and they're over by pretty much dinner time, at least for me on the East Coast of the United States, that is, in case you're not watching in the United States, which if you're not, thank you, I appreciate you. But I think this is great. I hope it happens. I'd love to see it. That's brought on by Grayson Waller coming out, who basically plays the heel here, says that instead of London, why don't we go to Australia, which is obviously where he's from. Basically a big setup for him to attack Cena eventually. Then Cena gets to hit the attitude adjustment on him. This is a fun little segment. Like I said, in the beginning Cena was going a little bit long-winded, but other than that, I think everything else was really good. I like that Grayson Waller is getting that Cena rub. I think Grayson Waller definitely has something there. He's going to be a big-time player in the WWE for a lot of years, and this is great just having him work off a guy like Cena. Now going from that, we go right into our women's Money in the Bank match. We have Zelina Vega going up against Bayley versus Zoe Stark versus Becky Lynch versus Io Sky versus Trish Stratus. A few things here that I thought were really funny. First off, they announced Bayley as part of the Judgment Day, so I guess Samantha Irvin has Rhea Ripley on her mind, and if you've seen, I believe it was Instagram, either Samantha Irvin or WWE, or maybe even Rhea posted it, but there was a house show or a different show in London where Rhea's basically flirting with her, so obviously Samantha still has her on the mind. This was a really, really fun match. A couple things were really sticking out here. I mean, every woman in this match was incredible. The tension between Bayley and Io Sky, with Bayley costing Io early in the match. Becky Lynch looking like an X-Man. Either kind of looked like a cross between Rogue and Banshee. I'm going more with Banshee because she had the circles on her back kind of like Banshee does. This was a really cool match. Zelina Vega looked awesome. Like I said, everyone in here looked amazing. Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus introduced handcuffs, which come into play for the end, where we see Becky and Bayley get handcuffed together by Io Sky with their arms through the ladder so they can't climb the ladder, and they're tied to each other, which allows Io to climb and get the briefcase, which was absolutely amazing. Io picked up the win here. I thought that was a really creative and fun finisher. I would have liked to see how they got them out of the handcuff situations during the break or during the recaps that they showed. I thought this was really fun. I probably like it just a smidge better than the men's main event just because I like the creative ending a little bit more. I'm giving this one a 5 as well. I thought it was exciting. I thought it was fun. It's pretty obvious that Io Sky is going to go after Asuka. I mean, I doubt they're going to have her go up against Rhea Ripley, because if she is, she's just going to lose. I do like the fact that Io Sky is going to have the Money in the Bank briefcase for the women's side more than 24 hours, because obviously she can't cash in before Monday Night Raw at least. I don't think that they've had a woman carry it that long. Most of them, if not all of them, have been a cash in on that same night or the next night, and I might be wrong on that. If I am, let me know in the comments. I'm just going off the top of my head here. Just like I said, I really enjoyed the match. That's followed up with our WWE Championship match. We have Seth Rollins defending against Finn Balor. And one thing that struck me a little bit odd here is with Finn being Irish, I figured he might get a better reaction than he did. Not saying that he got a bad reaction, but if you listen through the night, it's not as good as some of the other people. It's not as good as LA Knight or Cody or even Seth Rollins in the same match. I was a little bit surprised on that, not exactly expecting it. This match was based on the original Universal Championship match. That was the build-up where Seth injured Finn and kind of derailed him for a while. That was a story going through this. Ultimately, we get towards the end of the match. Damian Priest comes down with the briefcase, which distracts Seth Rollins, leaves an opening for Finn. Finn hits a couple coup de grace on him, one off the announce table, one off the steps while he was on the outside, gets him in the ring. Looks like he's about to set up for the coup de grace in the middle of the ring, when Damian Priest stands up, distracts Finn Balor, which gets us the setup for Seth to hit the stomp. Seth Rollins picks up the win here, sows a little bit of tension between the Judgment Day members. I thought this was fun. I rather enjoyed this. I'm giving this one a 4. That's followed up with us getting to see Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in a skybox. The crowd goes crazy for Sami Zayn, which he's so over. It's amazing. They're talking about the main event, the Bloodline Civil War, and how Sami thinks that the Usos are finally going to beat Roman, which sets the table for the main event. What is being billed as the Bloodline Civil War, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy and Jay the Usos. This was another really fun match. Another page in our favorite soap opera, being the Bloodline storyline as the Bloodline turns. This is really creeping up there to be, if not the greatest story that WWE's ever done, one of the greatest stories that all of pro wrestling's ever done. I know sometimes we over-exaggerate things in the moment or recency bias, but I'd put this right now up there with the NWO storyline, with the Mega Power storyline, with Raven vs. Dreamer, which to me is the best story that wrestling's ever told. I'd put this right up there in that category. This is really close to that, and a lot of what's really good about this is the patience and the willingness to let the story play out. This has been a 3-year build. Roman's been dominant. Now we're starting to see in 2023 the cracks in the bloodline. First Sammy, then Jay Uso, then Jimmy Uso. Now Jay and Jimmy are going up against him and Solo. Have Jay and Jimmy put a seed of discontent in Solo's mind, saying that he would be the new head of the table if Roman loses. This was really fun, and these guys they tell an amazing story. Everything they do with this bloodline has been 100% a hit for me. I did disagree with Roman winning over Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. I understand that. I was very disappointed at the time. I still am disappointed. I still think that was the right thing to do, and they could have kept the storyline going a little bit differently. However, I'm okay with that for what we have here. It's a really fun tag team match. The Usos absolutely show that they're on the level of Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. They use a lot of the tactics that Roman would use against them, even to the fact that towards the end we get a kick out that ends up with a low blow, which sets the table for Usos to take over on Roman, Jay to hit a big splash, which I absolutely thought was the right guy to pick up the win here, being how the story has progressed. Jay pins Roman Reigns, the Uso brothers win. I'm giving this a 5. It is so good, and it is so compelling to see where they're going to go next with this story, because like I said, it's one of my favorite stories of all time now. It's amazing. I think these guys are knocking it out of the park. Just a great main event. Again, another great main event involving the Bloodline. Overall, I thought this was a really good show. As you can tell by my ratings, most things on here are rated either a 4 or 5, which means they're either highly enjoyable or outstanding in my opinion. The only one I slightly was down on was the women's tag match, and I wouldn't say I'm even down on it. It was just a weird ending that kind of took my rating down a bit. I'm going to give this show a 5 overall. It delivered. The 2 Money in the Banks were fantastic. Rollins versus Balor was great. Gunther versus Matt Riddle was fun for what it was. Cody Rhodes and Dominic Mysterio was fun. Seeing John Cena as a surprise, that was great. The Usos picking up the win, furthering this story along, that's going to be fun. Like I said, I'm super excited to see where it goes from there. Giving the show again a 5, I thought it was highly entertaining. With that being said, smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. If you see where it says join, that's how you become a channel member. Being a channel member definitely helps out. If you made it all the way to the end, let me know you made it to the end. Whose side are you on? Are you on Roman's side or are you on the Usos side? Put that down here in the comments. Team Roman, Team Usos. With that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been my review of WWE Money in the Bank 2023.